Welcome to our reenactment for today. The camera died on me on this damn computer. So I have to restart everything. We are drinking some of our Reproduction instant coffee. Having some of our biscuits. Like I said before, they are sweet with a whey protein flavor. And our main is corned beef. The types of trenches and dugouts they would be living in, depending how close they are to water. If they were not near water, or the water table was not near them, their trenches would be nice and dry, somewhat comfortable. There would be two areas, one for the normal soldier and another one for their officers further down the line. If you ever seen beneath Hill 60, you'll see the two types of living quarters. The nice ones, where it's got your table, chairs, and candles, lights, and place to cook and do your tea or your coffee. Or if it's like at Hill 60 where the Australian miners went, it is wet, it is damp, it is cold. You share your bunker with rats. Now, where I left off, I went to warm up the corned beef. And if you had it lying around, you would put onions in it and potatoes. Well, we had potatoes left over, and I could not get the onion out of the onion ring from last night, so I couldn't put in for cooked onion ready. So I put in onion powder, salt, and pepper with the potatoes. It's really good. These biscuits were advertised to go with the corned beef. So let's see what we got here. Yeah, really good. This is pretty much all US and allied type clothing I have are these jackets that are brand new. And I don't drink hot tea. Yeah. If I get a tea bag or something at International Ration, I'll brew it up when it's hot. Then I'll do the making of the iced tea with it. That's why I got coffee. Plus, it's the only thing that didn't come 3-in-1, where you didn't have a choice. Yes, that was their issue back then too. Well, you could have tea, alright, but yeah, you better like it 3-in-1 though. At least where what I saw in Repro rations said it was 3-in-1, but it might have been separated into 3 different little containers of sugar, milk, and then your tea. Guess if I really wanted black hot tea, could have got the stuff that their British airborne unit drank when they did Operation Market Garden. That was plain straight black tea with a few little things added to it. But not the reproduction stuff, but the real stuff back in the day. It was said to be their energy drink, whatever that meant. So, why today? What are we doing today? Well, let me share with you some history about a forgotten battle. We all know about the first battle of the Somme. But there was a second one, 21st March to 4th of April, 1918, where the British Army had to return. Now, when you're eating breakfast or something, you're probably writing your folks back home, your sweethearts. When I was preparing all this, waiting for all this food and ration stuff to get here, I was preparing with documents and letters. This would be just like a letter from a British soldier who survived the first one and heard they have to return for a part 2. Your mom and dad, we are going back to the Somme for a second battle. We aren't looking forward to it. Wish your unit would be sent to the rear rather than return to the Somme for another awful bloody battle. We Catholics aren't afraid to fight, but tired from the first battle of the Somme. I think it is stupid to return, and more thousands of men to be killed or wounded for a few yards of ground, and nothing comes of it. Thankfully, our unit commander is Catholic, and thanks to the men, and planning something to break the stalemate of the old British tactics of going straight into the enemy's guns. Hopefully our losses are low and we capture the enemy in a just manner. Keep us all in your prayers, and if I fall in the second battle, have the Gregorian masses for me. We prepare here as if it will be our last days, with prayer, mass, and the sacraments. God end this war soon. Now, both with seeing the documentary on the first battle of the Somme on YouTube, these letters back home would be censored. Certain information about the battle, the second battle, certain key phrases will be darkened out by their fellow soldiers who are tasked to do this. These men did not like to censor the stuff. What we don't realize was, in the First World War, as it was in the Second, it was very much a propaganda war. But instead of just being the Germans in the Second World War, it was also the Allied units keeping the truth from reaching back home. Instead of saying what really went on and saying, oh, it was a fantastic victory, they were told to do that instead of report on the losses and everything, or how bad the battle really went. Just awful. Yeah. If there was a real big lull in action and nothing going on and your area is safe and silent, you'd be upstairs playing rugby or cricket. You're a Australian or a British unit. Not sure what the French did. Yeah. Well, this corned beef is rich with fat. I don't think I need to add any salt to it. The saltiness of it is kicking in. And I was like, there wasn't that much saltiness when it was cooking. But once it's cooling down and everything, there comes the salt. And we look at all the modern MRE packages and the nutrition facts and how salty it says it is, but yet so bland. It's how it tasted when it was cooking, bland. But when it was cooling right here, then all that salt from the brine and the corn and of this beef is coming through now. So instead of adding salt, I should have added pepper and other seasonings to it. And this right here would either be for one person, or you could split it out and share it. I have 2 people at least eat off it. This 1 can of corned beef. See if these crap can do anything to it. Plus the potatoes were salted when they were cooked on Sunday. So, yeah. So when you write your folks home in the First World War, you write what you want to say, you wanted to tell them. But then when you handed your letter in to be mailed, it'd be opened up, then censored and read. Awful. Wow. Adding some sound effects, folks. As if you were near the fighting, shells would be dropping, exploding almost every 2 seconds or every minute. It was a war of artillery. You often hear, instead of a medic like we would call out for, they would call for the stretcher bearer to get them to the medic. Stretcher bearer! Some of these generals in the British Army were awful in all that planning detail. Because in the first battle of the Somme, they thought it was going to be a cakewalk because they fired over 2 million shells at the German lines to try to break it. But the Germans were there about 2 or 3 years, dug in properly and securely. Didn't even phase them. And they thought, oh, 2 million shells would be making a cakewalk over there. It wasn't. They didn't have enough stretcher bearers or medics at the ready. They had an intelligence plane flying up above, watching the battle. Just flying around, watching the battle, seeing what's going on. Instead of using that air advantage dropping explosives onto the German trench, actually into the trench of the Germans. And when they needed more troops, who did they want to call up? Horseback cavalry against machine guns. Yeah, right. But the French side of it, the French pushed through and got through and did their job, while the British suffered heavy losses. I'm gonna buy it with this cracker mixed up in it, and we'll begin to tell a story of the second battle of the Somme. Huh. Floaties from the water. Okay then, not drinking that no more. Guess we're done with the coffee for now. I wonder where those things came from, because they weren't in the first cup. The Second Battle of the Somme, 21st March to 4th April 1918. Here's the map. And why I'm doing it today, the British will be planning on what to do, how to do it, and doing the second battle. So a lot of coffee will be drank, a lot of tea, a lot of smoking. The Second Battle of the Somme, 21st March 4th April 1918, was the first of General Ludendorff's 5 great offensives launched during the spring and summer of 1918. At the start of 1918, Ludendorff realized that he had a short period of time in which to win the war. The collapse of Russia gave the Germans a temporary numerical advantage on the Western Front, but millions of American soldiers were on their way to Europe. 318,000 American soldiers were already in France by May of 1918. Another million arrived before August. Ludendorff's plan involved an attack on a 50-mile front of the south of Arras. In the south, it was intended to reach the Somme and hold the line of the river against any French counterattacks. Further north, two armies would attack. To the north and south of Flasquez, Salines, created during the Battle of Cambrai. Two northern armies would then attack the British position around Arras before advancing northwest to cut off the BEF in Flanders. During the planning process, the southern advance was extended to include an advance across the Somme. The success of this southern advance would badly unbalance the entire offensive. The German attack fell on two British armies. The north was General Julian Byng's Third Army, defending the area from Arras south to the Flasquez salient. To the south was General Hubert Gough's Fifth Army, which held the line down to Barrières in the junction with the French. The Fifth Army was the weaker of the two armies. At the start of 1918, the BEF had reorganized its divisions, moving from 12 battalion divisions to 9 battalion divisions, to avoid disrupting the better divisions in the army. Regular divisions were unaffected. Gough's army, as the newest of the British armies, contained a large number of reorganized divisions. Much of the Fifth Army's line had only recently been taken over from the French, making it unfamiliar terrain. The BEF had a wider problem during early 1918. Its last defensive battle had been the Second Battle Ypres in 1915. In the intervening years, the only major German offensive on the Western Front had been the Battle of Verdun, which had fallen entirely on the French. Ludendorff assembled a force of 71 divisions, supported by 6,500 guns and 3,500 mortars. Split between three armies and two army groups, from the north to the south they were below 17th Army, marked Witt's Second Army, part of the army group commanded by Crown Prince Ruperick, and Hutier's 18th Army, part of the army group commanded by the Crown Prince Wilhelm. The northern part of the German attack was the least successful. The low 17th Army east of Arras only advanced 2 miles during the entire battle. Although it made more progress farther south, it never posed the same threat as the attacks further south. It would take part in the Mars attack on March 28th, but once again failed to make any progress against the well-established British defenses around Arras. A key element of the German plan was the use of stormtrooper tactics. Elite stormtrooper units would lead the attack, advancing through weak points in the British line, bypassing strong points and getting as far behind the British lines as possible. Behind them, the regular infantry would mop up the isolated strong points left behind by the artillery bombardment and the stormtroopers. Ludendorff hoped that these tactics would allow his troops to advance 5 miles on the first day and capture the Allied field guns. The artillery bombardment began at 4:40 a.m. on March 21st. The bombardment hits targets over an area of 150 square miles, the biggest barrage of the entire war. Over 1,100,000 shells were fired in 5 hours. A mix of high explosive, poison gas, smoke shells were used. The British suffered 7,500 casualties during the bombardment. The front line was badly damaged, communications were cut, and the rear zone badly disrupted. When the infantry assault went into it, and it achieved a stunning success. Most of the British front line fell during the morning, By the end of the day, large parts of the Fifth Army were falling back. Gau was forced to order a fighting retreat to win time for reinforcements to reach his army. At the end of the first day, the Germans had broken through the British first and second lines of defense. Along a quarter of the entire line attacked. Static trench warfare was about to give way to mobile warfare for the first time since 1914. The first day of the battle had been very costly for the Germans. They suffered almost 40,000 casualties, slightly more than they had inflicted on the BEF. More seriously, the crucial attack in the north had failed to isolate Salines. The German attack was already beginning to head in the wrong direction. That would have been a little comfort to Gau and the Fifth Army. On the 22nd March, they continued to fall back, losing the last foothold in their original front line during the day. The biggest retreat was made by the 18th Corps. In the middle of the Fifth Army, whose commander, General Ivor Maxis, seemed to have misjudged an order from Gau for a fighting retreat as allowing him to pull back all the way to the Somme. The biggest danger on March 22nd was that the two British armies might become separated. Byng was perhaps too keen to hang on to the Flesquez Salient, won at such cost on a previous day. Haig had to order him to keep in contact with Gau's army, even if that required a bigger retreat than the fighting would otherwise justify. The day also saw the first French troops enter the battle on the south of the line. On 23rd March, Ludendorff changed his overall plan for the battle, on the assumption that he had or was about to break through the British lines. Lowe was to attack to the northwest. Marchwest west along the Somme to north, with Ames and Hautier to the southwest to attack the French. Marchwest and Hautier would continue to achieve successes until the end of March, but the original purpose of the attack, the thrust north against the British, was already fading. The new focus of the German attack came close to splitting the British and French armies, both physically and in purpose. As the British were forced further east, the need for French reinforcements became increasingly urgent. General Pétain, from whose armies those reinforcements would have to come, was increasingly convinced the British Fifth Army was beaten. He was also worried about the possibility of a new German attack further east. On 24 March, he informed Haig that the French army was preparing to fall back towards Yvers to protect Paris if the German advance continued. This would have created a massive gap between the British and French armies, and almost certainly forced the British to retreat towards the Channel ports, creating a situation very similar to that of 1940. Alarmed by Petain's pessimism, Haig contacted the War Office to request an Allied conference. This took place on March 22nd at Doullens, the line of the German advance. 10 senior Allied politicians and generals were present, including the French President, Prime Minister, and Minister of Munitions, General Pétain, Foch, Haig, and Wilson, the Chief of the Imperial General Staff. The end result meeting was that General Foch was given overall command of the fighting on the Western Front. It was agreed to hold the Germans east of Amiens. An increasing amount of French soldiers would come to the aid of Gau's Fifth Army eventually, taking over large parts of the front south of Amiens. Ludendorff Ludendorff also issued new orders on 26 March. All three of his armies were given ambitious targets, which included the capture of Amiens, an advance towards Combigny, close to Foch's own headquarters. Neither of these objectives would be achieved, although Montier, halfway between the two, would fall on the 27th March. The focus of the German attack changed again on 28 March. This time was the Third Army around Arras that would be the target of Operation Mars. 29 divisions attacked Bing's army and were defeated in a day. Mars was cancelled on the same day that it began. The same day saw General Gough replace the commander of the Fifth Army by General Rawlinson. Despite having organized a long and reasonably successful retreat. The last German attack came on March 30th. Berthier renewed his assault on the French on south of the newly formed Somme salient, while Martois launched an attack towards Amiens, which became the first battle of Villers-Bretonneux, 30th March to 5th of April. Some ground was lost, but the German attack was rapidly losing strength. The Germans had suffered massive casualties during the battle. Many to their best units. In some areas, the offensive slowed down while German troops looted Allied supply depots. The final German attack was launched towards Amiens. It came on the 4th of April, when 15 divisions attacked 7 Allied divisions on the line east of Amiens. At Villers-Bretonneux, they came close to recapturing the village, but were turned back by an Australian counterattack. An attempt to renew the offensive on 5th April failed. On that day, Ludendorff called to a halt to the offensive. Both sides suffered massive losses during the battle. The German official history of 1944 gave a figure of 239,000 casualties. The British suffered 177,739 casualties, 90,882 of them in Gaull's Fifth Army, and 78,860 in Byng's Third Army. The Germans had captured 1,200 square miles of France and advanced up to 40 miles, but they had not achieved any of their strategic objectives. That was the Second Battle of the Somme. I'm going to call it right here, folks. And I'm going to put this in a true skillet and see if I get it a little bit more crisper with a few more potatoes and make a better corned beef hash out of it. Anyway, that's my review for today of British biscuits, what they called bully beef back then. Which today is corned beef. Back then, it could have been corned beef if they had beef. Could have been pork, lamb, mutton, or other meat they had. So it's called bully beef. So yeah, that is it for the day. Hope you enjoy this review and a little bit of history lesson. I'll be posting the links to Reproduction in the description, and even Hogan's Quartermaster supplies Reproduction rations. And the information here on the Second Battle of the Somme. Yeah, it was fun to try out these products. This coffee is really good, and a big old can of instant coffee lasts you for a while if you're just one person. If you're not a coffee addict, it might last you a few hours or a few days. But yeah, that's it for the review and history. It's time to relearn our history, a true history, and keep it alive. No matter if it offends us, we become too weak. We now take things that are truthful, historic, and now it offends us. All the leftist garbage propaganda was back then too. As I said, trying to limit what could be said and how it could be said. Even letters back home to your folks, to your sweethearts, wives, to your children. Your letters will be opened, read, and censored. Even the private stuff regarding family matters. Now, thankfully, our troops have their secured Skype lines to call home and talk to their loved ones face to face. They get to hear what's actually going on. Well, enjoy this video. Please share it, like it, and please subscribe. And go over to From Rome Info video channel and subscribe. He's a Franciscan hermit living in Rome who does religious videos, news videos. He's on the ground in Rome and covering what's been going on there regarding the virus, all the weird decrees by the Prime Minister Conte, weird rules on the grocery stores. Yeah, go over to From Rome Info video on YouTube. Give him a subscribe. Really interesting stuff over there. And I'll post the link to his channel in the description and comments. Well, that's it for today. God bless.